You know, we've been speaking this month about spiritual paradox. And paradox is not, contrary to belief, two doctors in the same room, but rather is, sorry, I know it's so old, but sometimes you just got to drag them out, you know. When else are you going to use it, right? No, it is not. Rather, it has to do with two seeming opposite ideas being equally true. So we've been looking at a number of those, and so today's paradox is you don't have to be perfect to be perfect. You're welcome. I notice our new neighbors. We're excited to have new neighbors here, and I almost censored for a moment, but the thought was so fleeting. So we were sitting around the other day thinking of like clever slogans that we could have, because I love their Grace Church. It's okay not to be okay. Where it's okay not to be okay, and we were thinking, it's okay not to be okay, but could you try? Could you make an effort? We haven't quite. Actually, we came up with a few of them, but the rest of them just need to be someplace other than Sunday morning. So. But you see, we deal with this all the time because our philosophy teaches us that we are whole, perfect, complete beings. Isn't that lovely? And yet, sometimes we look at our lives and it does not appear that they are reflecting the divine wholeness that we are, the divine perfection that we are. And so we get into this human spiritual struggle. Then some of us, some people I know, have this whole need to be productive, to be meaningful, to be powerful, to be perfect in every possible way. Some of those people experience frustration. So it's like, which is it? Am I perfect or am I imperfect? And the answer is yes. Yes. So, that mindset, and I notice with, one, not only wanting to be productive in the world and all that sort of thing, then sometimes we get into this philosophy, into this teaching. I was having a conversation recently with a person who's been experiencing illness. Now, she's a longtime metaphysician, and she's quite displeased with herself. Because obviously she has a higher level of consciousness. Why is this so? Right? And so she has done what I call metaphysical guilt, which is so much more enlightened than just plain old regular guilt. Right? Because we know that we are co-creative beings with our lives, and so if something's going on in our life, then we co-created it, and why would I do that? Right? So in our lives, sometimes things happen, and they're here for the evolution of our soul. They're here for our growth, for our unfolding. You see, I do believe that at a spiritual level, we are indeed whole, perfect, complete beings. We have a concept of the divine as this wholeness, this oneness, this being that in and of itself is perfect. And because we are one with the life force, our spiritual nature is one of wholeness. And so our spiritual inheritance is wholeness, perfection, love, joy, beauty, abundance, all of these things. And that's all great until we get a body and come to earth. And then we have to figure it out. How to do this spiritual wholeness thing in a limited form called a physical body with all the other associated things that go with it. So sometimes we get into this thing where we forget who we are, and we're disappointed with ourselves. We're judging ourselves based on conditions. And it is a wonderful opportunity for us to look at this idea that sometimes our human disappointment is actually a spiritual appointment. And one of the ways that we find that is through failure. Breathe, everybody. There's a few of you perfectionists that just fell out of your chair. Can somebody check on them, make sure that they're breathing and stuff? Because, right, through failure, yes, through screwing it up, through messing it up, through not getting it right. I was thinking about a young man who was cut from his high school basketball team. He said once, "I missed over 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. On 26 different occasions, I was entrusted to make the game-winning shot, and I missed." You know how they make the movies? And at the very last minute, they're down to the last closing seconds, and the kid shoots, and it's win, and it's hooray. Well, he missed that opportunity 26 different times. Oops. He says, "I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that's why I've succeeded." Some of us know him as Michael Jordan, and he kind of turned out okay. Right? Babe Ruth had in his career home run record of 714. That's amazing. I played baseball as a kid for 2 or 3 years, and I have exactly 0 so far. But I haven't given up yet. I'm feeling good. Right? But the thing that we forget about Babe Ruth is that he also had 1,330 strikeouts. You see, almost twice as many times as he hit home runs, he struck out. But we don't remember that. At one time, he held the record for strikeouts. Impressive. He once said, "Every strike brings me closer to the next home run." You see, there's a mindset that goes with playing the game of life. And if we play safe, we only want to be in the game if we can succeed. If we get to win, then we don't get to play big. I was thinking about this poor guy. Well, maybe you've heard of him. He was very famous because he created a company called Trafo Data. You remember Trafo Data? No? Really? It's so odd. It's a company. As a matter of fact, it's the company that Paul Allen and Bill Gates started the first time out. Didn't do so well. They failed. What would you expect from a Harvard dropout? Right? But then they come across another idea called Microsoft, and that seems to have done okay. Had he not been such a loser and figured out how to make Trafo Data work, he could be maybe worth $100 billion now. And just instead of the 50 measly billion that he has now, right? You see, we so often look at our lives and we forget that the places where we are broken are actually where growth occurs. The places where we have failed, if we are wise, are the places where greater possibility emerges. But we sometimes get into that mindset that if I didn't do it right the first time, I'm not even going to try again. I know people who have given up on doing relationship because their relationship didn't work. Yes, I'm telling you, I know these people. Now, this is not our crowd. There was a time when our religious science or our science of mind ministers were sort of famous for having serial relationships. In fact, if you hadn't done 2 or 3 marriages, what would you know? I mean, was it just, how you get a starter home? Well, in fact, I often quote my friend Marcia Sutton, who had a brilliant line at Selamar one year. She said, "I have grown so much as a person. I can now do in one date what it used to take me a whole marriage to accomplish." Vincent van Gogh sold 1 painting in his lifetime to a friend who was probably just trying to help him out. right? You see, sometimes genius isn't recognized as genius at the time. And yet he spent a lifetime painting, and now, of course, these are priceless works. You see, if we judge ourselves by our failures, then we miss the opportunity for our larger story to be told. I'm reminded of that Einstein didn't even speak till he was 4 years old. They talk about this story of one time somebody found him and he was standing outside of his door, the key in the lock, kind of lost. And so I sort of imagine, like, you know, I don't know, I've never invented a theory of relativity, but I would think that would take most of your brain cells. You can't be multitasking, you know. I get it, you know, I totally get it. But they thought he was slow. He was different. Some people think you're different. Some people aren't shy about telling you how different you are. It reminds me of the child that didn't speak till he was 5 years old. And one day, sitting in the kitchen, Mom was making breakfast, and the kid says, "The toast is burnt." And they're like, "Oh my God, a miracle! He talked!" And they said to him, "Why did you never talk to us before?" He said, "Everything was fine up until now." Yeah, I found an old drawer, in case you're wondering. He's bringing out all the good, all golden oldies, right? Right? Everything was fine until now. You see, when you look at people's lives, when we look at our own lives, what we so often do is focus on what is wrong with us, with the mistakes that we have made, with the failures that we have occurred. I tell you, as a person who's well versed in failure, it does not define who you are. And rather, it does not, what it says to us is that our failures don't define us, rather they can refine us. Yeah. I came up with that one on my own. I liked it. For once, he didn't steal it from somebody. Yes. We don't allow our failures to define us. We allow them to refine us. We choose to learn over and over and over. You see, none of us have figured out how to do life perfectly, without error, without mistake. That's not the program here, by the way, in case you were wondering. This is not the planet. There's some other planet where you get to be perfect all the time. This isn't it. And yet, sometimes we allow our failures, our mistakes, and all those things to be the defining moments, and then we stop playing fully in life, lest we fail again. I find that those people who are most comfortable with success have failed radically. You know, as Baber said, every strike brings me closer to a home run. Michael Jordan knew that every miss brought him closer to a hit, right? And yet we so often get stuck. So in looking at this, we want to look at this idea that perhaps there's an opportunity where our human disappointment, when it can be transformed and we open ourselves, becomes the divine appointment for something greater, for a greater good to be revealed through us, for a new pathway to open. One of the greatest gifts we have and one of the worst enemies we have is our ego. Have you noticed this? We all need an ego. A person without a functioning ego is not functioning. And yet, when it becomes supersized, then it becomes the limiting factor to our greater good. And so sometimes things happen in our lives, and if we see that in a new light, in a new context, then what we can see is something else is emerging, something else is trying to happen. We're willing to surrender to a divine intelligence at work. We're learning to transform our pain into love and compassion. reading a lovely little short essay by Bernie Siegel. And Bernie Siegel is just this brilliant force of good on our planet, really helping move Western medicine forward into a place of love and compassion. And he began his journey as a young child looking around at the world and just saying, how can this be? How can there be war? How can there be poverty? How can there be homelessness? How can there be all of this darkness? See, same journey that the Buddha said, how can this be? And so he went to different people, and some of the people, very wise and informed people, had really wise and informed answers, none of which resonated with him. He said a few really honest people said, I don't know. And he could work with that. Why is it? I don't know. Except that we know bad things happen. Had this horrible earthquake this weekend. Millions or hundreds of thousands of people have died. It's a sad thing. Bad things happen. People die. I'm not even sure if I should tell you this, but you're going to die. I know. Not me. Yes, it's true. Now, I'm basing this on the 10 billion people that came before us who all died, right? So the odds are not great. So I think we could ask ourselves, why? Or we could ask ourselves, what does that mean? Right? Pain is going to happen. Loss is going to happen. Heartbreak is going to happen. Failures are going to happen. So the defining moment is not, can we manifest our life perfectly according to our blueprint, but rather, can I be in the presence of the divine knowing that everything is working for my greater good? So Bernie Siegel says that he kind of came to this understanding, and a wise teacher began to help him to understand is we don't really know why bad things happen. But what we can look at is who do we become in the midst of pain, of loss, of sorrow. And he says this, God has given us work to do. Recognizing that this is all a part of a scheme, this is all a part of something, does not mean that we aren't going to grieve when we experience loss. But we will also use our pain to help us know ourselves, and to respond to the needs of others. You see, I see this over and over and over again, that when you've experienced loss, when you've experienced pain, when you've experienced something, then you have a great gift to share and help lighten the burden for others experiencing that same thing. When you go through a dark period in your life and you emerge from the other side, then you are uniquely qualified to assist others in moving through that same experience. You see, this is what binds us together as humanity. There's a larger story being woven together. And he says, so we need to use our pain to help know ourselves and to help us to respond to the needs of others. He was sharing several different experiences, but I love this one. He talked about a young man that he worked with who had a life-threatening illness. And the young man said this in their conversation. He said, what is evil is not the disease. Excuse me. He said, many great creative works will come from individual suffering. But what is evil is to not respond with compassion to the person with the illness. Now think about this. Sometimes in our clinical world, in our clinical model, people can be less than compassionate. This was, I think, Bernie Siegel's great message for medical professionals is these are people. These are not cases. And so that openness to be in a place of love and having our hearts open, that's not easy. When you're dealing, many of us know when you're dealing with pain or when you're dealing with suffering, you're dealing with all that sort, the temptation is to close our heart. I had this revelation, I had this experience of realizing that I came onto this planet very empathetic, very connected with the divine, and very capable of feeling all that was going on around me. That was not necessarily good. And so as a coping mechanism, I learned to shut that down. Now, my life lesson has to be keep opening that back up. That there is a way to experience love. There's a way to experience peace. There is a way to experience compassion, even in the midst of sorrow, even in the midst of loss, even in the midst of heartache. And that's why I say so often that our journey is to remain open, to remain vulnerable. We're sharing in class the other night with this story which you've heard me tell many times about the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell defines this process that we go on when we're evolving. And it's the stuff of great literature. You see, we don't make movies about people playing bridge. Right? We came, we played bridge, we had some bridge nuts, and then we left. Ooh, right? Speaking of which, did you know that Steven Spielberg tried 3 different colleges to get accepted to the School of Theater? Loser. The stories are endless of people that are trying to conform until they find their own authentic voice. But we are talking about how all of mythology and all of legend and all of stories and all of these things are about the challenge of life, of being tested, being tried. And ultimately there comes a point where the hero or heroine moves through those road of trials through this place called the supreme ordeal. And for me, I define that as that time, that moment in our life when we are faced with the human meets the divine. And a decision has to be made. Who will emerge from this? And in the emergence, we find the gift, and then we achieve mastery. So we're talking about this story, the great Christian mythology, and I don't use that in a negative sense, the great Christian mythology of the death and resurrection, where you see that truly the supreme ordeal is the moment when Jesus goes into the garden. The drama is unfolding, and now something bad is about to happen. And Jesus brings his disciples with him and goes into the garden, and he does what we would all do. Praise to God. God, take this away. Pass this cup from me. Right? Isn't that what you do? It's what I do. God, I know I signed up to play big, but I'm going to go review the contract because I am certain I did not invite this particular challenge into my life. So I love this. So listen to this story with me just from a metaphysical point of view for a moment, whatever you believe to be true or not true. But so in metaphysics, in the metaphysical Bible study, Unity is brilliant at this, they talk about each of the characters in the Bible as representing different aspects of the divine. So Jesus represents the Christ itself, and Jesus is challenged to this great cosmic drama. And so he knows that the day is coming, and so he takes 3 disciples with him. 3 disciples are Peter and the sons of Zebedee, who happen to be James and John. Now, metaphysically, each of those represents spiritual aspects. So Peter is the quality of faith, right? Upon this rock I shall build my church, the quality of faith. James is the quality of wisdom. And John is the quality of love. So into this challenging place, Jesus takes the qualities of love, of faith, and of wisdom. And he says, I'm going to go pray. Won't you just be with me? Won't you just remain awake? And he goes off to pray, and not too much longer, he comes back, and they have gone to sleep. Right? Think about this. When you are faced with challenge, can you remain awake? Can you remain awake with faith, with wisdom, with love, even when you don't like what's coming? So he says, wait here, wake up, wait here. I'll be right back. Going to go pray again. Comes back. They're asleep again, right? It's so hard to get good help. So just as a metaphor, think about this. The challenge of remaining awake. You see, this is, when you see this, you really understand the understanding of Buddha, having this same challenge, looking around at the world around him and said he was protected. Lived in a prince in a palace. Everything was beautiful. Everything was lovely. Everything was wonderful. Until he went outside the palace and he saw pain and suffering and he asked the eternal question. And so his journey led him to being awake, to being compassionate, to being loving, to practice non-attachment, to practice not resisting, to remain awake in the midst of change, of pain, of hurt. So as we're facing these very human lives with all that they entail, with the loss, the pain, the sorrow, the hurt, people will disappoint you. You will disappoint yourself. And I'm going to guess you've disappointed some others. We're not going to take confession today, but I'm just going to take that guess. But the larger story is, are we willing to embrace the greater good? Are we willing to see that in the times of trial, in the times of tribulation, in the times of temptation, as it is called, that we keep our faith, our wisdom, and love awake? Here's what I would invite you to know, that no matter what you're going through today, wherever your life is right now, there is a greater story that is emerging. There's a greater possibility seeking its appointment through you. So rather than be disappointed, allow this to be the divine appointment. Allow this to know that something greater and a greater good is coming through. Ecclesiastes says to us, better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof. How true is that? This is the beginning of your transformation. Better is the end. And Ecclesiastes also goes on to say, the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. Be patient. Don't let pride get in the way. Now, there are highly evolved metaphysicians who allow their ego to get in the way of their greater good. Some of them may be in this room, I don't know. Right? It says, be patient in spirit. Don't let that. You're not messing up if it's not perfect. You're revealing your perfection through the challenges that are in our lives. And who we become and how we evolve, like all of those wonderful people I spoke of, will never be known by our mistakes if we allow the greater good of who we are to be the defining factor. If we're willing to be that place of love, to be that place of wisdom, to be that place of compassion that lifts others up, that becomes our legacy. So my friends, wherever you are, whatever's going on for you today, just know with me that the divine is always your life. It is seeking its revelation through you. And wherever you are loved and supported in being full and your authentic self. Let us pray. As we simply breathe into this awareness and into this moment, into the recognition of the one life, the one power, the one infinite being that is indeed everywhere present and always available. We simply remember that this life intelligence, this life force, is the thing that has created all. this amazing universe in which we live with all of its galaxies, with its suns and its planets and its blades of grass. We know that this divine wisdom is always coursing through our very being. It is beating our heart. It is breathing our lungs. It is indeed the very air that we breathe. Everywhere present, always available. And so we open our hearts in this moment to be receptive and available to this divine wisdom, to this unconditional love, to the presence and the power of Spirit. We surrender any thoughts of separation. We remember that we have always been and shall always be connected with the one life. And therefore we enter into a higher dimension of understanding. We speak the word of truth this day, knowing that wholeness is revealing itself through us, through every cell and every system, as health, as well-being, as vitality. We're bearing witness to the presence of absolute unconditional love, that grace that transforms our lives, allows us to heal, allows us to forgive, allows us to see with eyes that can see truly. We fully forgive ourselves, freely allowing grace to be revealed. We forgive those who we perceive to have harmed us. We're opening a pathway of understanding and compassion. We're knowing right here and right now that we are abundant beings. For we are created in the image and in the likeness of that which is the source and substance of all that is. And so joyously we give, graciously we receive of this divine bounty. It is our inheritance. Simply inviting you in this moment that if there is a burden on your heart, a place that feels unhealed or incomplete, let this be the moment of new beginning. Let this be the moment of new possibility. Allow that human disappointment to become the divine appointment with your greatness, with your power, with your understanding. How good it is to know this truth. How good it is to know that we are blessed beyond measure. And as we recognize and celebrate those many blessings in our lives, we extend a blessing. We bless this spiritual community. We bless all those who gather here and know that we are a place for light, for understanding, for compassion, for love, for joy, for awareness. Divinely guided and abundantly supplied. We extend that blessing from this place to encircle the entire globe. We lift up our brothers and sisters in the light of truth, the light of understanding, the light of love. We're holding that high vision for a world that works for all, for a planet at peace. From the chaos emerges order. We are grateful. We take this moment to bless all priests, rabbis, ministers, teachers of every faith. For we know that there are indeed many pathways to the divine. Where two or more are gathered in that understanding of the I am, something greater is revealed, and we are grateful. So in joy and gratitude, then, we simply give thanks. Giving thanks for the many blessings in our lives, giving thanks for the consciousness established here, giving thanks for a law of mind operating upon that consciousness, giving thanks over and over again. And now simply releasing to that divine law that knows what to do, how to do it for the highest good. And so in joy and gratitude, I allow it to be so, as together we say, and so it is.